Say yes, our marriage would be amazing. I know you can't hear me separated by 7 palace walls and a throne I never wanted, but I'll say it anyway, please. I've rehearsed this 1,000 times in the mirror wearing the crown that makes me a prince and not a man, and every time the words come out wrong. Not like now they are perfect because you're not here to see me break. They told me you left the capital yesterday at dawn. They told me you refused the summons. What they don't know is that I watched you go from the eastern tower hidden like a coward, memorizing the way you didn't look back. You never look back. That's what I love about you. That's what's killing me. Our marriage would be amazing. I need you to believe that, even if you never hear this, even if I'm speaking to an empty room that still smells like the roses you wore in your hair the last time you stood here. Do you remember? You probably don't. You said something cruel about duty. I said something crueler about choice. And then you walked out, and I've been suffocating ever since. They want me to marry the daughter of the Northern Duke. Political alliance, strategic brilliance. Her name doesn't matter because I don't say it, not even when my father commands me to. I say yours instead. In council meetings and prayers I don't believe in the dark before sleep, Fani takes mercy on me. Please say yes, not to the wedding they're planning, to the one I see when I close my eyes. You don't see what I see. A ceremony at sunset, no crown required. Just your hand in mine and a vow that isn't written by priests or politicians. Our marriage would be amazing because it would be ours. I'd wake up to you instead of to reports of border tensions and grain shortages. I'd learn how you take your tea instead of how to sign execution orders with a steady hand. We'd fight, of course. You'd challenge every decision I made, and I'd love you more for it because everyone else just bows and lies and waits for me to become my father. You wouldn't wait. You demand I be better. I remember the first time you contradicted me in front of the court. The room went silent. My advisor actually gasped. And you just stood there, unflinching, explaining exactly why my tax reform was short-sighted and cruel. You were right. I implemented your version and told everyone it was my idea. You knew. You smiled at me like I was finally learning, and I swore I'd make you smile like that every day for the rest of my life. What you don't know is that I've been designing our wing of the palace, west side, overlooking the gardens you said reminded you of home. Marble floors because you hate cold stone. Balconies on every room because you need air, space, sky. I've planned it down to the tiles. My advisors think I'm redesigning the guest quarters. Let them think that. Let them think I've forgotten you, that I'll do my duty and marry strategically and produce heirs like a good prince. They don't hear me at night. The council convened this morning. Emergency session. Apparently someone saw you in the southern provinces, organizing farmers, speaking about land rights and reform. They used the word dangerous. I used the word brilliant. My father used the word treason. You never knew how close you came. One signature, and you'd be arrested, brought back in chains instead of carriages. I burned the order in front of him. First time I've ever refused him directly. He didn't speak to me for the rest of the session, but his silence was a warning. Choose the crown or choose you. As if it's simple. As if love and duty can't coexist in the same chest. Our marriage would be amazing, but it would also be a revolution. The common-born woman who dared marry a prince. The prince who abandoned political strategy for his heart. They'd write songs or declare war, depending on which kingdom you asked. The Northern Duke has already threatened to withdraw his armies if I don't marry his daughter. 3 provinces are on the brink of rebellion, and our alliance is the only thing holding them. My father reminded me that a prince's marriage isn't about happiness, it's about survival. Survival of the realm, the bloodline, the empire we've built on centuries of strategic unions and sacrificed love. And still, I'd burn it all for you. That's the part that terrifies me. Not that I love you, but that I'd let kingdoms fall just to hear you say yes. I've become someone I don't recognize. Obsessive, reckless. I send spies to make sure you're safe, then hate myself for invading your freedom. I've diverted funds meant for the military to the villages you're helping, covering my tracks through false reports and loyal treasurers who don't ask questions. If they audited the books, I'd be called a traitor alongside you. Maybe I am. A traitor to the crown I wear, the oath I took, the legacy I'm meant to uphold. But our marriage would be amazing because you'd make me a traitor to the right things, to corruption, to apathy, to the version of ruling that prioritizes power over people. You once told me that a crown is only worth wearing if it's heavy with responsibility, not just gold. I laughed then. I was younger, stupider. Now I feel the weight every morning and it's crushing me, and the only time it lifts is when I imagine you beside me, sharing the burden. I've done terrible things to protect you, silenced rumors with threats, paid off informants. There's a lord who got too curious about your whereabouts. He's been reassigned to our coldest northern outpost. I didn't hesitate. I'd do worse. I'd do anything. And that's the darkness you'd be marrying, not the prince from the ballroom who danced with you under crystal chandeliers. The one who's learned that love in a palace requires blood on your hands and lies on your lips. Please say yes. I know you won't. I know you're too smart, too principled, too aware of what our marriage would cost. Not just politically, but personally. You'd have to give up the work you love, the freedom you fought for, the identity you've built far from palace chateaus and royal expectations. You'd become an ornament, a piece in the game. Everything you've sworn you'd never be. Our marriage would be amazing, but only in the fantasy I've constructed in the space between midnight and dawn. The real version would probably destroy us both. You'd resent me for the cage. I'd resent you for making me choose between love and the millions who depend on the stability my duty provides. And still I'm standing here, in an empty room, practicing a proposal you'll never hear, because some part of me needs to believe it's possible, that you'll change your mind, that I'll find the courage to abdicate, that the world will shift and make space for us. My father is announcing my engagement to the Northern Duke's daughter next month. I'm expected to smile, to accept, to secure the alliance that will prevent war. I'll probably do it. I'm a coward in all the ways that matter. But tonight, I'm here, speaking to the ghost of you, asking one more time. Please say yes. Our marriage would be amazing. And even if you never answer, even if I marry another and rule as I'm meant to and never see you again, I'll die knowing I asked. 3 weeks since I last spoke into the void. 3 weeks and everything has accelerated toward catastrophe. The engagement was announced. I smiled for the portraits. The Northern Duke's daughter is lovely, they tell me. Educated, graceful, perfectly suitable. I wouldn't know. I haven't looked at her face long enough to remember it. What I remember is the intelligence report that came 2 hours after the announcement. You were seen in the market square when the news broke. Witnesses say you went completely still, then continued purchasing vegetables like nothing had changed. That's so perfectly you, it actually made me laugh. A broken, bitter sound that made my guard shift uncomfortably. They think I'm unraveling. They're right. Our marriage would be amazing, but I'm starting to understand it would also be impossible, and there's a difference between those two truths that's tearing me apart. Impossible doesn't mean I want it less. It means I want it more, with the desperate intensity of someone reaching for something already gone. I've started writing you letters I'll never send. 17 so far, locked in a drawer only I have the key to. They're evidence of treason if anyone reads them. Confessions of how I've sabotaged trade agreements that would hurt your villages, delayed military actions that would suppress the reforms you're fighting for. I'm governing in secret conversation with you, asking myself before every decision, what would she say? What would she demand I do differently? You're turning me into a better ruler and a worse prince. There's poetry in that, or tragedy. I can't tell anymore. You need to know what happened yesterday. My father collapsed during a council meeting. The physicians say his heart is failing, weeks, maybe months, which means the crown is coming for me faster than anyone anticipated, and with it, the absolute power to remake everything or destroy it. I stood by his bedside last night, watching him struggle to breathe, and you want to know my first thought? Not grief, not fear, just this. If he dies, I could call off the engagement. I could bring you back. I could marry you and dare anyone to stop me. What kind of son thinks that while his father is dying? What kind of man calculates love against a parent's final breaths? You'd be horrified. You'd see exactly what the palace has made me, a creature of strategy even in moments that should be purely human. Our marriage would be amazing, but you'd be marrying a monster in royal clothing, someone who weighs every emotion against political gain, someone who's forgotten how to feel anything that isn't also a chess move, except with you. That's the only thing that still feels clean. My father whispered something before I left his chambers. I had to lean close to hear it. He said, marry for the kingdom, love in secret if you must. That's what I did. I never knew. 30 years he's ruled, married to my mother, and apparently there was someone else. Someone he gave up. He wouldn't tell me who, but the regret in his eyes was so raw it looked like a fresh wound. I don't want to be him in 30 years. I don't want to rule with ghosts and what ifs. The wedding is scheduled for autumn. They're already designing the ceremony spectacle for the entire realm. 3 days of celebration, alliances solidified in silk and ceremony. The Northern Duke's daughter wrote me a letter. It was kind, diplomatic. She knows this isn't a love match. She promises to be a good partner in governance, to respect boundaries, to understand the nature of royal marriages. It was the saddest thing I've ever read. Two people agreeing to a lifetime of polite distance. Our marriage would be amazing because it would be the opposite of that. Messy, passionate, real. We'd fight and reconcile and challenge each other and actually mean our vows. But here's what keeps me awake. Maybe I'm romanticizing you. Maybe the version of us I've constructed in these long nights alone is as much a political fantasy as the marriage they've arranged for me. Maybe if you were actually here, dealing with the reality of palace life, the compromises and corruptions and impossible choices, you'd hate me. Maybe you already do. I've sent 3 separate messengers to find you, carrying letters that just say, please come back, no obligations, I just need to see you. All 3 returned without delivering them. You've disappeared. The intelligence networks that tracked you for months have gone cold. It's like you vanished intentionally, making yourself unfindable. Are you protecting yourself or punishing me? Both would be justified. I'm going mad with not knowing. They've assigned me extra guards because I've been slipping out at night, searching the city myself, hooded and desperate. I have to tell you the worst part. The part that makes me irredeemable. There's a proposal on my desk right now, a law that would grant land rights to common farmers, redistribute holdings from corrupt nobles, establish protection for reformers and activists. Everything you've been fighting for, everything I've secretly funded and supported from the shadows, I could sign it. With my father incapacitated, I have emergency executive authority. One signature and your life's work becomes official policy. But here's the poison. My advisors have made it clear that signing it means the Northern Alliance falls apart. The Duke will see it as a direct attack on noble privilege. He'll withdraw his daughter, his armies, his support. 3 provinces will likely revolt. We could be looking at civil war. So I'm sitting here, holding the pen, doing the mathematics of ethics. How many lives is our love worth? If I sign this and marry you instead, and war breaks out and thousands die, does our happiness justify that cost? If I don't sign it and marry strategically and keep the peace, but your people continue to suffer under unjust laws, is that better? Our marriage would be amazing, but it might be built on graves, or our separation might be, depending on which choice I make. You always said the personal is political. I never understood how violent that truth could be until now. Until I'm forced to weigh your smile against stability, my heart against my duty, love against the machine of governance that grinds up anything soft. I made my decision an hour ago. I'm telling you first, even though you can't hear me, even though you're somewhere I can't reach, living a life I'm not part of. I signed the law. Every reform you wanted now official policy. And then I sent a private message to the Northern Duke calling off the engagement. The council is in emergency session right now, shouting beyond these doors, probably drafting my removal. My father might disinherit me from his deathbed. War might come. I might have just destroyed everything 3 generations of my family built, but our marriage would be amazing, and I'm finally choosing to believe that matters. I'm done calculating, done sacrificing, done being the dutiful prince who swallows his own life for abstract concepts of realm and legacy. I'm sending this recording to every messenger I trust with instructions to find you no matter how long it takes. When you hear this, if you hear this, I'll either be king or exile, savior or destroyer, depending on who writes the history. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if you'll say yes or curse me for dragging you into the chaos my choice will unleash, but I'm asking anyway. Please, our marriage would be amazing. Not perfect, not safe, not politically sound or strategically brilliant, but real, true, ours. Meet me where we first argued, where you told me I knew nothing about my own people. You were right then. I'm trying to be right now. Please say yes. It's been 4 days. 4 days since I sent those recordings into the world like messages in bottles, hoping one reaches you before everything collapses. 4 days since I became the prince who broke a kingdom's engagement for a woman who might not even want him anymore. The Northern Duke declared our alliance void. Official proclamation, sealed and delivered with barely concealed rage. His armies are withdrawing from the eastern borders. My council meets in shifts now, round the clock, trying to manage the crisis. They don't use my title anymore when they argue. They just say he with contempt dripping from the word. He destroyed our security. He chose personal obsession over realm stability. He's unfit to rule. They're not wrong. But what you need to understand is that I've never felt more certain of anything. Our marriage would be amazing, and I'm willing to watch the world burn to prove I meant it when I said those words into empty rooms for months. Is that love or madness? The line keeps blurring. My father regained consciousness yesterday. They told him what I'd done. He looked at me for a long moment, and I braced for rage, for disinheritance, for the final severing. Instead, he smiled, barely perceptible but real. Then he said, I should have been that brave, and closed his eyes. I think that was blessing, or forgiveness, or recognition that he's watching me make the choice he couldn't. Either way, it's the closest we've ever been. Two men destroyed by love in different ways. The palace feels different now, like it's holding its breath, waiting to see if I've committed inspired revolution or spectacular suicides. Servants whisper in corners. Guards watch me with something between pity and awe. The Northern Duke's daughter sent her own letter, not through official channels but privately. She thanked me, said she was relieved. Apparently she's in love with her childhood friend, a captain in her father's guard, and my rejection freed her to pursue what she actually wanted. There's irony there. I broke an alliance and accidentally created someone else's love story. You'd appreciate that. You always said the system trapped everyone, even the privileged. Now we're both free of our cages, and I'm terrified of what that freedom costs. Our marriage would be amazing, but I'm starting to realize I might have burned the world down for a fantasy. What if you don't come? What if you hear everything I've done and see it as manipulation? A prince throwing a tantrum, destabilizing nations because he can't handle rejection. What if you're happy where you are, finally free of palace politics and royal complications, and I've just made myself into the cautionary tale you tell about power and obsession? I deserve that. 3 more intelligence reports came back empty. You're either extraordinarily good at hiding, or you've left the kingdom entirely. There's a third option I don't want to consider. That something's happened to you. That in the chaos of my reforms and the political upheaval, someone who opposed the changes found you first. Last night, someone tried to kill me. Poison in the wine, amateurish but sincere. The taster caught it. He's recovering, barely. They found the servant who did it, some cousin of a lord whose lands were redistributed under the new reforms. The assassin is in the dungeons now, and the council is demanding public execution as a show of strength. I can't stop thinking about what you'd say. You'd probably argue for mercy, for addressing the systemic rage that creates assassins instead of just punishing symptoms. You'd be right, and I'd commute the sentence, and half the court would see it as more evidence I'm too weak to rule. But here's the thing, I don't feel weak. I feel clarified. Someone wants me dead for doing the right thing, and that means I finally did something that matters. Our marriage would be amazing because you'd understand that. You'd see the assassination attempt not as horror, but as confirmation that we're actually threatening the structures that need to fall. The council is pressuring me to rescind the reforms, to apologize to the Northern Duke, to reinstate the engagement, to prove I've come to my senses. They've prepared the documents, just one signature, and everything returns to how it was, stable, strategic, suffocating. I looked at those papers for a long time, picked up the pen, put it down, picked it up again. Then I remembered your face the last time we spoke, the disappointment in your eyes when I chose protocol over principle. I burned the documents in the council chamber fireplace while they watched. No one spoke. I think they finally understand I'm irreversible. A messenger returned today. Finally, not with you. I'm not that fortunate, but with information. You're in the western mountains, apparently, working with mining communities. Dangerous work. The conditions there are brutal, the overseers corrupt and violent. Of course, that's where you are. You've never chosen the easy fight. The messenger said, you received my recording, all of them actually. You listened to every word while sitting in a tent surrounded by miners' families. And when it finished, you didn't say anything. Just asked the messenger to leave, that's all I know. You heard my confession, my proposal, my complete dismantling of political stability in your name, and you went silent. I'm trying not to read that as rejection, trying to believe you're processing, considering, weighing the implications. But the silence is its own answer, isn't it? If you wanted me, you'd come. If you believed our marriage would be amazing, you'd already be riding back. Instead, you're in the mountains, continuing your work as if nothing has changed. Maybe for you, nothing has. Maybe I'm still just a prince who talks about reform from a palace while you actually live it. The gap between us isn't distance, it's authenticity. I've been practicing revolution from a throne. You've been living it in the dirt. My father died this morning peacefully, the physician said, but I was holding his hand, and I felt the moment his breathing stopped. I'm king now, officially, irrevocably. The coronation is in 3 days, and every neighboring kingdom is watching to see if I'll stabilize or collapse. I'm being crowned in 48 hours, and I've made a decision that will either be remembered as visionary or catastrophic. I'm leaving the throne, not abdicating something more complex. I'm restructuring the entire monarchy into a constitutional system with elected councils, limited royal power, distributed governance, everything you've ever advocated for. The proclamation goes out tomorrow. My advisors think I've lost my mind. Maybe I have, but our marriage would be amazing only if I'm not a king and you're not a subject. Only if we meet as equals, two people choosing each other without crowns or politics between us. So I'm dismantling the barrier. The western provinces are already mobilizing support. Turns out, when you actually give people power, they're willing to defend the ruler who did it. The nobility is fracturing. Half want me overthrown, half see the future coming and are adapting. It's chaos, it's terrifying. It's the only honest thing I've ever done. I'm leaving for the western mountains tomorrow, before the coronation, before I'm locked into ceremony and state functions. I'm coming to find you myself because I'm done sending messengers and waiting for responses that don't come. I need to see your face. I need to hear you say yes or no, not to a prince or a king, but to me. Just me. Our marriage would be amazing. I've bet everything on that belief. My crown, my kingdom, my life. If you reject me, I'll have destroyed a monarchy for nothing. If you accept me, we'll build something new from the ruins. Either way, I'm done speaking to your ghost. I'm coming for the real you. I'm writing this from a camp halfway to the mountains. No guards, no entourage. Just me and a horse and the very real possibility I've made the greatest mistake in royal history. It's cold out here. The kind of cold that makes you question every decision that led to sleeping on frozen ground instead of silk sheets. but I'm closer to you than I've been in months, and that matters more than comfort. Our marriage would be amazing, and I'm finally in the same territory where that could become real instead of fantasy. I keep rehearsing what I'll say when I find you. Every version sounds wrong, too formal, too desperate, too much like a prince, and not enough like a man who's willing to give up everything. The truth is simpler. I love you. I've restructured a kingdom for you. I've walked away from absolute power to meet you as an equal. Please say yes. 3 words I've been building toward for months. A proposal that's already cost thousands of lives in political upheaval, that's redrawn the map of governance, that's turned me from heir to revolutionary. No pressure. I passed through one of the villages you helped last year. They have a shrine to you, actual candles and offerings to the people's advocate. You're a legend here, a symbol, and I'm the king they're learning to trust because I'm trying to be worthy of you. Do you see the impossible position that creates? I'm governing in your image, but you never asked for that. You never wanted to be my inspiration or my moral compass. You just wanted to do the work. And here I am, turning your life into my redemption arc. I found you 2 hours ago. You were exactly where the intelligence said, outside the mine shaft, arguing with an overseer 3 times your size about safety violations. You didn't see me at first. I just watched you, cataloging all the details I'd forgotten. The way you gesture when you're angry, the steel in your voice, the complete absence of fear even when facing down someone who could crush you. You're magnificent, and I'm terrified because now it's not theoretical. You're 50 feet away, and in a moment, I have to walk over there and face whatever answer you've decided. Our marriage would be amazing. That's what I came to say. But standing here watching you in your element, I'm not sure I have the right to ask anymore. You're whole without me, complete, doing work that actually matters, and I'm the complication, the disruption, the Prince King now who can't let go of something that was never really his to hold. You turned, saw me, your expression didn't change, didn't soften or harden, didn't show surprise or joy or anger. Just recognition, like you'd been expecting this. You said something to the overseer, I couldn't hear what, and started walking toward me. Every step feels like judgment, like the universe contracting to this single moment. Everything I've done, every choice, every burned bridge and restructured law comes down to whatever happens in the next 60 seconds. I'm a king who abandoned his coronation, a man who crossed the kingdom on foot, someone who's bet everything on the hope that you meant it when you smiled at me in the palace gardens and said that power is only worth having if it's used to serve others. You stopped 3 feet away, close enough to touch, but you didn't. You just looked at me for a long moment, and then you said, you actually did it. Not a question, an observation. I tried to read your tone, impressed, angry, scared, all of it maybe. I told you yes, signed the reforms, ended the engagement, restructured the monarchy, walked away from my own coronation to find you, burned it all down just like I promised. You know what you said? That was incredibly stupid. And then you smiled. God, that smile. Like sunrise after months of night. Our marriage would be amazing. I started to say it out loud, the phrase I've been repeating like a prayer, but you held up your hand, stopped me. You said we needed to talk first, really talk, about what this means, about the responsibility of what I've done, about whether I did it for you or for the right reasons, because if it's just for you, that's not romance, it's obsession, and obsession destroys everything it touches. You're right. Of course you're right. You always are. So we walked away from the mine, into the hills, and we talked for hours. I confessed everything. The letters I never sent, the spies I sent to watch you, the laws I shaped in imagined conversation with you, the assassination attempt, the loneliness, the madness, the certainty that I'd rather rule nothing with you than everything without you. You listened, actually listened, didn't interrupt, didn't judge. Just let me spill every dark, obsessive, devoted thought I've been carrying. And when I finished, you told me your truth. You said you almost came back a dozen times, that you heard the engagement announcement and nearly broke, that you listened to my recordings until you had them memorized, analyzing every word for manipulation or sincerity. You wanted to believe me, but you've seen too many powerful men promise change and then revert to type once the pressure's on. You needed to see if I'd actually follow through, if I'd sign the laws without guarantee of reward, if I'd restructure power even if you never came back. Because our marriage would be amazing only if I'm the person you need me to be. Not for you, but because it's right. You were testing me. Every day I didn't rescind the reforms, every choice I made toward justice instead of stability was an answer to a question you never asked out loud: are you real? And apparently I passed. Barely, with significant reservations. You're still not sure this isn't a prince playing at revolution, ready to return to autocracy the moment things get difficult. Fair. I'm not sure either. I've been royalty my entire life. Undoing that conditioning is lifelong work. But you said, and this is the part I keep replaying, you said you're willing to find out together, not marriage, not yet. You were very clear about that. You don't trust institutions, especially ones built on property exchange and political alliance, which is what royal marriage has always been. But partnership, working side by side, building the new governance systems together, keeping me honest, calling me out when I slide into old patterns of command and control. You want to see if the man matches the proclamations, if I can actually share power instead of just redistributing it. We're heading back to the capital together, not as king and future queen, as co-architects of whatever comes next. You have conditions, lists of them actually. You wrote them down while we talked, because you're you and you plan revolutions, like military campaigns. Complete transparency in governance, regular public forums, accountability structures, constitutional limits on royal authority that can't be undone by future monarchs. You want everything I've started to become permanent, embedded so deep in the system that it can't be torn out when I'm gone. Our marriage would be amazing, but you barely let me finish the sentence anymore. You say marriage is a distraction, a fairy tale ending that stops the real work. Maybe later, you said. Maybe after we've proven this can work. Maybe after you trust that I love the principles more than I love you. That one hurt, but it's fair. I did restructure a kingdom for you. The principles came after, or alongside. It's tangled, and you're right to demand I sort it out. The coronation has been postponed indefinitely. The council is furious, but public support is surging. Turns out people like a king who walks away from his crown to do the right thing. There's momentum, dangerous, unpredictable momentum. You're already strategizing how to channel it. Watching you work is like watching art. You see systems I don't even notice, leverage points I'd miss. You're better at this than I'll ever be, and I'm learning to be okay with that. Learning that partnership means following sometimes, listening more than speaking, sharing credit and blame equally. We've been back in the capital for a week. You refuse to stay in the palace, 2 OK rooms in the city instead, in a building with activists and organizers. You come to council meetings and dismantle terrible ideas with surgical precision, then leave before dinner, maintaining distance. Everyone's confused about what you are to me. Advisor, partner, the woman I destroyed political stability for, who won't even stay in the same building. Let them wonder. You said ambiguity is useful right now. Keeps people focused on policy instead of romance. Keeps me focused too. Our marriage would be amazing, but you're teaching me that amazing isn't enough. That sustainable matters more than passionate. That institutional change requires patience, not just dramatic gestures. I'm learning, slowly. Yesterday I tried to issue an executive order, old habits, and you stopped me in front of the entire council. Asked if that's really how we're governing now. Reminded me I literally restructured the monarchy to prevent exactly that kind of unilateral power. I was embarrassed, angry, then grateful. That's what you do. You save me from myself. The council is starting to respect you. Even the ones who hate what we're building recognize your brilliance. There's talk of creating an official position for you. Chief Advocate, People's Representative, something with actual power, not just influence. You're considering it. I can see you calculating the good you could do versus the compromise of accepting a title from the system you fought against. It's the same calculation I'm making every day. How much do you work within power structures to change them? How much do you tear down and rebuild? 3 months since I left for the mountains. 3 months of the hardest work I've ever done. Not governing, but becoming someone worth governing alongside. You're relentless. Every lazy thought, every shortcut, every moment I rely on authority instead of persuasion, you call out. It's exhausting. It's necessary. Our marriage would be amazing, and I barely say it anymore because I'm trying to prove it instead. Small things. I've learned how you take your tea. I notice when you're tired and make sure there's time in the schedule for rest. I defer to your expertise publicly. I've stopped sending people to check on you because that was controlling and creepy. I'm learning the difference between devotion and obsession. It's thinner than I thought. Last night we worked late on constitutional language. Everyone else had left. It was just us and documents and lamplight. He looked up at some point and said, "You're different than you were." Not better, different. I asked if that was good. You said, "Ask me in a year." Then you smiled. That smile, progress. The northern provinces are still unstable. There are skirmishes, nobles trying to reclaim power. It's going to get worse before it's better. You're not naive about that. You know people will die because of what we've started. That weight sits on both of us now. Shared responsibility, shared guilt, shared hope that the world we're building justifies the cost. Some nights I still wonder if I did the right thing. If stability and suffering might be better than chaos and change. Then I watch you with the people, really listening, actually caring. And I remember why this matters. Something shifted last night. We were arguing, we argue constantly now. It's how we work about land redistribution timelines. Heated, passionate. You accused me of prioritizing noble comfort over peasant survival. I accused you of reckless idealism that ignores political reality. Back and forth, escalating. And then suddenly we weren't arguing anymore. I don't know who moved first, but you kissed me, actually kissed me. First time since I returned, first time maybe ever with that kind of intention. And it was God. Our marriage would be amazing. I finally said it afterward, breathless. And you didn't deflect. You said it would. Present tense, conditional, not agreement, not rejection, possibility. You told me you're starting to believe I might actually be who I'm trying to become. That the man who spent 3 months listening and learning and sharing power might be someone you could build a life with. Not yet, but eventually, maybe, if I keep proving it, if we survive the chaos, if the reforms hold, if we don't burn out or betray each other or get killed by the forces trying to stop us. So many ifs, but possibility, real possibility. You stayed in the palace last night, first time. Your choice. We didn't sleep together. You were very clear about boundaries, but you stayed in the room I designed months ago, the one overlooking the gardens. You noticed the marble floors, the balconies, every detail planned for you. You asked how long I'd been preparing this. I told you the truth since the moment you walked out. You cried. I'd never seen you cry before. You said it was the most romantic and most presumptuous thing anyone's ever done. Both, always both with us. The Constitutional Convention begins tomorrow. 6 months of debate and design, condensed into 3 weeks of final negotiation. representatives from every province, every class, every faction. It's going to be brutal. You're leading the common delegation. I'm technically presiding, but we both know you're the actual force here. I've prepared for this like a military campaign, but you've prepared like it's the only thing that's ever mattered because for you it is. Our marriage would be amazing, but this constitution is your real love. I've made peace with that. Actually, I admire it. You love principles more than people. It makes you incorruptible. Tonight, you asked me what happens if we fail. If the convention collapses, if the provinces revolt, if we can't hold this together. I didn't have an answer. You said that's okay. That not knowing means I'm finally being honest. The old me would have had a strategy, a contingency plan, a way to maintain control. This me just has hope and commitment and a partner who's smarter than I'll ever be. That has to be enough. My advisors are worried. They see how much I depend on you now, how much I've ceded decision making. They think you've manipulated me, seduced me to destroy my own power. They don't understand that this is exactly what I wanted, to be small enough to be human, to share burdens instead of carrying them alone, to build something that doesn't require a king. You're teaching the kingdom to not need me. And when they finally don't, when the systems are strong enough to function without royal authority, maybe then you'll marry me, because it won't mean anything except us. The Constitution passed. Not unanimously, we lost the eastern provinces, and there would be consequences, but it passed. Actual, binding, revolutionary governance, power distributed, rights protected, the work you've dedicated your life to, now law. You stood on the steps afterward, addressing the crowd, and I've never seen you more alive, more certain, more absolutely yourself. I stayed back, let you have the moment. This was your victory, not mine. Our marriage would be amazing, but watching you triumph is better than any personal happiness I could claim. You found me afterward, pulled me into a corridor away from the celebrations. You were shaking, adrenaline and relief and probably terror at what comes next. You said, "Ask me again." I knew what you meant, but I needed to hear you say it. You took my hands, looked at me with those eyes that see through every defense I've ever constructed, and you said, "I'm ready. If you still want this, if you still want me, if I still want you," as if there's been a single moment in the last year I've wanted anything else. I asked properly this time, not a statement, a question. Will you marry me? Not as king and subject, not as political alliance, just two people who fought and rebuilt and somehow found each other in the ruins of everything we thought we knew. You said yes. Finally. Actually, yes. Our marriage will be amazing. Future tense, definite. We're not announcing it yet. You want to wait until the constitutional systems are more stable, until it's clear this isn't about power consolidation. I agree. For once I'm patient, because I know now you're not going anywhere.